When I was growing up, I was what you would call a rambunctious child. I was always getting into trouble. I was constantly involved in things that I wasn't supposed to be involved in. I remember, I think it was my junior year of high school, my math teacher, she opened the year talking about how excited she was about her new school supplies. I guess the state had increased funding that year, so she was able to buy all these extra supplies. She was so excited about these new erasers for her whiteboard. Yeah, I didn't really understand the excitement either, but since she was so thrilled about these erasers, I decided I wanted to share in her joy. I grabbed one of her new magic markers and I wrote my name on one of her new erasers. Now, I didn't think it was all that big of a deal. I wanted an eraser of my own, but she was very upset about it. She was so upset you would have thought I had painted my name on the windshield of her car. She calls my parents. I get home later that night. My dad obviously is pissed off about it because he had to deal with the teacher. Now, in my 16-year-old mind, I didn't really understand the big deal, but for my dad, me writing my name on this eraser, it wasn't about the eraser. It was about a pattern of behavior. New school year, new teacher, same problem. Me. Every year, no matter what grade I was in, there was always the phone call from at least one teacher complaining about my behavior. Of course, I never thought it was my fault. I always blamed the teachers. My dad told me, at some point, son, you're going to come to the realization that when all these different people have a problem with you, maybe the problem is you. I feel like that's where things are going right now with Stephen A. Smith. Maybe Stephen A is the problem. This past week, Stephen A has been more bitter than a menopausal woman. Hell, Stephen A is around the age when birthing persons go through menopause. Since the shit fucks believe that men can go through menopause and Brother A is a card-carrying member of Woke United Methodist, maybe he is going through menopause himself. I don't know. But I don't understand where all this bitterness is coming from. And it's not like something has happened recently to cause Stephen A to be bitter. Nothing has happened recently to trigger these emotions. Brother A is unloading on things that in some cases happened years ago. It all started earlier this week with Skip Bayless. Apparently Shannon Sharpe, hey, it's me, Shay Shay. Apparently, Shannon Sharpe confided in his new spouse. Perhaps they were having some pillow talk. Maybe they were sharing a nice romantic dinner together. The spiked lemonade was flowing courtesy of Don's Lemons. Doesn't take much of Donnie's special concoction to lower a parishioner's inhibitions. Shay confessed to A, I didn't want to divorce Skippy. He wanted to divorce me. Oh! This confession triggered feelings of anger in Stephen A, feelings of rage. Instead of keeping this information private, something shared between brothers, Brother A immediately tells the world that Skip Bayless pushed Shay Sharpe out of FS1. This is bullshit. This isn't right. The white man should never be allowed to eliminate someone else's woke welfare. Now, just to be clear, it was perfectly fine when Stephen A did the exact same thing to Max Kellerman. That was bueno. But when Skippy, the former Bebe, did it to Shay Shay, that was no bueno. Speaking of Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith worked through his repressed feelings of aggression to once again kick the only remaining spot on Max Kellerman's ass that has yet to be kicked. But before I share that clip with you, let's get to the sponsor for today's video, my friends at America Rising Coffee. Now, if you're like me, you can't start your day without your cup of coffee. Hell, I can't start my morning or my afternoon without coffee. I am notoriously picky when it comes to coffee. When I first linked up with America Rising, I got to admit to you, I was a bit skeptical. I didn't think it was possible for another brand of coffee to supersede my preferred brand. But America Rising did exactly that. To their credit, they remain true to their slogan, awake, not woke. This is some of the best coffee I've ever had, and it gives me the energy I need to start my day. This is also some of the purest coffee that I've ever drank, and there's a reason for that. America Rising, they have personal relationships with their farmers. These beans are hand-picked. This is not machine-processed garbage. Also, if you purchase coffee through America Rising, you can rest assured that your money it is not going to be wasted being donated to Woke United Methodist. A portion of all proceeds are donated to Dog Tag Buddies, which links up military veterans suffering through PTSD with the service dogs that they need. Now, me personally, I went with the French roast back here, but there are plenty of other flavors for you to choose from. Head over to AmericaRisingCoffee.com or click the link in the description below. Use my promo code BTL10023 to receive 10% off your first order. All right, earlier this week, Stephen A. Smith, he was the guest on Joe Budden's podcast. Well, Casey, who in the hell is John Budden? Joe Budden is a former rapper. He had a couple of minor hits during the mid to late 2000s. Now, he revitalized his career by teaming up with DJ Academics and hosting a show on Complex called Everyday Struggle. Now, I thought Everyday Struggle was great, although it was short-lived. After his falling out with Complex, I think it was over money, Joe Budden launched his own podcast, which has been very successful. Now, while Brother A was on the show, the topic of Max Kellerman is brought up. Now, at this point, everyone knows why Max Kellerman is no longer on First Take. We get it. Stephen A. didn't like working with Max. He didn't think they had chemistry. When they embraced in a woke hug, Brother A didn't feel the same passion. He didn't feel the same connection with Max that he feels with other dudes. That's fair enough. There's no sense in dragging out a relationship when your heart is not 100% committed. But there is absolutely no reason to denigrate the credentials and the capabilities of Max Kellerman while explaining why your relationship didn't work. Dude, it's been 2 years. Everyone seems to have gotten over it except for Stephen A. Smith. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Watch for yourself.
You weren't an athlete and you weren't a journalist. And the absence of the two components left people wondering, why should we listen to you? It was like I was damn near doing the show by myself because we were oceans apart in terms of cachet. There's nothing personal. We weren't enemies or anything. To be real, we ain't spoke since.
Okay, let's just use Stephen A.'s logic against him here. He basically said, since Max Kellerman is not a former athlete or a journalist, that Max Kellerman has zero credibility with the audience. Okay, that's strange because last I checked, Stephen A. is not a former athlete either. Well, Casey, that's not true. He played basketball at the collegiate level. The dude was barely on the team at some tiny school in the Carolinas. Stephen A. will even admit it himself, he was not skilled enough to play major college basketball. Stephen A. is a former journalist, but he has absolutely no credibility on anything outside of the NBA. Just last week, he couldn't name any of the quarterbacks at Alabama, one of the biggest programs in the country. His takes on the NFL, absolutely embarrassing. Stephen A. will go on ESPN, claiming to be excited to see a matchup between two players who haven't touched the field all season. Outside of the NBA, Stephen A., minimal knowledge on any other sport. Hell, this dude has less credibility with the NFL than Mina Kimes. Have you ever seen Stephen A. Smith analyzing the UFC? It's horrific. But that's fine. That's fine because people don't watch Stephen A. Smith because of his lack of knowledge. Stephen A. Smith is the biggest draw in sports media because he's entertaining. Brother A., he claims the decision to divorce Max Kellerman was all business, but it damn sure seems personal to me. This divorce happened 2 years ago. You know how many times I've heard Max Kellerman discuss this publicly? None. He doesn't even work at ESPN anymore. He could say whatever the hell he wants about Stephen A. Smith, yet Max Kellerman continues to remain silent. Why? If I had to guess, Max has moved on. It no longer bothers him, but it damn sure seems to be bothering Stephen A. Smith, which leads us to the absolute embarrassment that took place on Twitter yesterday morning. That clip I just shared with you guys from Joe Budden, that clip's been viewed almost 20 million times on Twitter. Naturally, people began to speculate as to why Stephen A. continues talking about his divorce from Max Kellerman over 2 years later. Someone on Twitter, they provided a possible reason for this disdain towards Max and this increased level of bitterness that we're seeing with Stephen A. Smith. Back in 2019, Terrell Owens, he was a guest on First Take. For some reason, they were talking about Colin Kaepernick getting back into the NFL. I thought they were supposed to discuss reality on that show, but clearly they enjoy talking about their fantasies. At one point during the segment, Terrell Owens, he said something that deeply hurt the feelings of Stephen A. Smith. Oh, my feelings. Why do these men constantly hurt my feelings? Watch for yourself.
Again, you mentioned obviously Max is going to get in here, and like I said, I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with what he's coming, with his commentary.
Now, just to be clear, this happened 4 years ago. While this video was circulating on social media, Terrell Owens, he retweeted the video with a simple caption: facts. That was it. One word: facts. That one word caused Stephen A. to unleash his emotions and outrage. Take it out for yourself. You know, my audience is a fraction of the size of Stephen A.'s. His platform is massive, especially when it's compared to mine. But any content creator with a platform, you are going to receive hateful comments that have no basis in fact. I am often accused of being racist. When I shit on women's sports, I'm accused of being a misogynist. There used to be a troll here on YouTube who would comment multiple times on every one of my videos, making up fake stories about me being gay. I saw KC in New Orleans. He was hugging some dude with a beard. He's gay. I never respond. Why? Because it doesn't bother me. And it doesn't bother me because it has absolutely no basis in reality. It's all fantasy. Clearly, Stephen A. Smith was bothered by this with Terrell Owens. He was bothered by it 4 years ago, and he was bothered by it yesterday. Why? Maybe, just maybe, there is a perceived level of truth to what Terrell Owens is saying. And notice I said perceived because that's all that matters here, the perception. Terrell Owens clearly struck a nerve. He struck a nerve to the point where Stephen A. completely humiliated himself on social media, threatening to expose Terrell Owens. Expose him of what? T.O. was just laughing this off. It was all fun and games to him, but for Stephen A. Smith, this was serious. You have to wonder why this accusation was so serious for him. It makes you wonder why this bothers him so much. I'm also wondering why Stephen A. Smith seems to be so bitter lately. In terms of public relations, this was not a good week for Stephen A. He continues shitting on Skip Bayless, even though First Take is quadrupling Skip's ratings. He continues piling on Max Kellerman, even though Max is unemployed and completely irrelevant. And now he's going after Terrell Owens, someone that no one else was even thinking about until Stephen A. Smith responded. Where is all of this bitterness coming from? Stephen A. Smith is clearly winning. He's a multimillionaire. He's the most influential person in sports media. I'm not a psychologist. I'm no expert on human behavior, but I'm starting to wonder if Stephen A. Smith is starting to feel replaceable. Shannon Sharpe has boosted ratings on First Take by hundreds of thousands of viewers. When Shannon Sharpe is on the show, they're pulling 600,000-700,000 viewers. The other 3 days of the week, Stephen A. Smith is lucky to pull 400,000. I'm starting to wonder if Stephen A. Smith is feeling a bit worried here. For years now, he has been the only draw at ESPN. He's had all the power and leverage. He brings in Shannon Sharpe. He presents it to the public like he is saving Shay's career. This could actually turn into a situation where the co-star begins to outshine the star. This could be Skip and Stephen A. all over again, except the roles will be reversed. Maybe all of this outrage, maybe all of these uncontrollable emotions are coming to the surface because Stephen A. Smith is beginning to feel vulnerable. He's losing some of his power at ESPN. I don't know. That's pure speculation on my part. Like I said, I'm no therapist, but it's an interesting theory. You let me know. Why do you think we are seeing this increased level of bitterness from Stephen A. Smith? Do you think he sees Shannon Sharpe's star rising? Do you think he sees these massive ratings on First Take with Shay, then ratings crashing back to average without him? And maybe it's causing a level of concern with Stephen A. Smith? I don't know. You give me your thoughts. You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe. I appreciate you guys and your continued support. I'm sorry about my voice today. It's a bit scratchy, but enjoy your NFL Sunday. I'm about to go turn on Red Zone. I'll be on Twitter throughout the day, tweeting my thoughts on all the games. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.